Study Session 14. Syntax, Functional Analysis. Introduction. In the remaining two lectures on this course, 14 and 15, you will learn an alternative method of syntactic analysis. You will learn about form-function method of analysis as developed by Michael Halliday and others. This approach will enable you to analyze the form and functions. In this type of syntax, your attention will be focused on sentence types, clause elements and their function. Objectives. At the end of this lecture, you should be able to 1. Analyze and describe the elements of clause. 2. Identify and describe grammatical and semantic functions of clauses in English. Pretest. 1. What is the distinction between a phrase and a clause? 2. What is the distinction between a clause and a sentence? Content, grammatical form, and function. During the latter half of the 1960s, M.A.K. Halliday's work became increasingly influenced by ideas of the functional, semantic, and contextual nature of language as held, for example, by B. Malinowski, with emphasis on the semantic dimension of language. Syntactic analysis no longer held the same focus of attention as before. Thus, systematic functional model began to account for the nature of the linguistic system and options available to the language user for carrying out specific communicative functions. The notion of function. Language functions can be considered at two major levels, the macro and the micro. At the macro level, Halliday identifies three meta-functions: experiential, interpersonal, and textual. At the micro level, language functions are grammatically described in such terms as subject, object, complement, adverbial, etc. Macro functions. A. The experiential function of language is used to communicate ideas. It is the function whereby a speaker expresses the content elements of his utterance. In operating this function, it refers to people, objects, places, actions, events, states, qualities, and circumstances. Consider the following sentences. We constructed a boat yesterday. The sentence has the following experiential details: speaker plus action, past, construct plus object, boat plus time, yesterday. 2. Your hands are cold. The experiential information in this sentence includes object, plural and, possession, address, plus state, present, cold. B. The interpersonal function of language can be seen at three levels. First, it is used to establish and maintain social relationships. This is found in greetings and various forms of phatic communion. Consider the following examples. 3. Good morning. 4. I'm pleased to meet you. 5. Goodbye. All these are typical examples of greetings serving to open, respond to, or close social contact. Secondly, it is used to influence people's behavior and get things done. This can be seen in the examples below. 6. Request. Could you pass the salt, please? 7. Instruction. Turn left at the junction and take the first turning right, etc. Thirdly, it is used to express the speaker's feelings, attitudes, and opinions towards an assessment of the additional content of what is being said. It is thus referred to as the personal function and serves to moderate the mainstream idea in the sentence, as seen in the following examples. 8. They may have got the information. 9. She has probably arrived by now. C. The textual or discourse function, according to Halliday, is used to create texts. It is the function which gives coherence and cohesion to a passage. Language, thus, is a mixture of network of systems and functions, just as the human being is made up of different parts with different functions. English clauses can be seen to realize these macro functions. Theoretical categories of grammar. The categories are unit, structure, class, and system. A. Unit. Unit is the category set up to account for the stretches that carry grammatical patterns in a language. These are 5 in number, namely sentence, clause, group, word, and morpheme. See Lecture 2. The notion of rank. The idea of rank relates to the grammatical units. This shows the hierarchical ordering and relation of the units recognized in the grammar of a language. The units can be arranged either in ascending or descending order. In the arrangement order, the morpheme is the least while the sentence is the highest. The arrangement also gives room for a lower rank. This arrangement of the structural units can be graphically demonstrated. Sentence, clause, group, word, morphemes, sentence. I. Example: I am seriously weak in science subjects. My mother is sick. 2. Clause. Example: if somebody wants to read medicine, what I'm trying to tell them. I. Group. Example: is not teaching, would like to do. 2. Word. Example: mother, letter, write, science, subject, tell. 3. Morpheme. Example: write plus ing equals writing. Interest plus ed equals interested. Subject plus s equals subjects. Happy plus ness equals happiness. B. Structure. This category accounts for difference in the pattern of utterances or sentences. It explains the way the stretches within the sentence or utterances have been combined to project the intended message. Structure caters for what constitutes a unit in relation to functional element therein. For the sentence or clause unit, the structure is always SPCA or SVOCA. For SPCA, we have subject, predicator, complement, and adjust. An expanded version of this is SVOCA, which has subject, verb, object, complement, and adverbial. These are the elements of the clause or simple sentence. Under the unit group, we have the nominal group, the verbal group, and so on. The structure for nominal group, for instance, is MHQ, which is modifier, head, word, and qualifier, while the verbal group structure has the element auxiliary and lexical verb. In this structure, auxiliary is optional. The lexical verb, for example, the structure of a verbal group can take any of these forms. Are going, as in we are going to our mother's house. Was, as in my mother was sick. See, class. This is the category set up for any set of items that have the same possibilities of operating in the structure. In fact, such items will be similar in structures, functions, and their combination with other units of the same rank. Thus, the classes of nouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, pronouns, and so on. D. System. This is a central category used to express a simple set of choices available at a particular place in the structure. In other words, this category accounts for the range of choices that are available within a unit. Halliday, 1985, 1995. More importantly, the unit of items contained in the system is finite, and the addition of a new term affects the meaning of at least one of the existing terms. Elements of clause structure and functions. There are 7 elements of clause structure. These are subject, S, verb, V, direct object, O, indirect object, OI, subject, complement, C, object, complement, CO, adverbial. Now, consider the clause element functions within the clause. What is and what it does. Subject. In terms of its meaning, the subject is normally the element which performs the action in the verb. In terms of clause structure, it comes first in the clause. Verb. In terms of its meaning, the verb element expresses the action performed by the subject. The action may not, however, be particularly active, being sometimes more a matter of being or feeling or becoming, states of existence, rather than performed actions like singing and dancing. Direct object. Some clauses are made of subject, a transitive verb, and a third element. The third element is the direct object, O, and such clauses can be called SVO structures. In terms of its meaning, the subject, the actor, typically does something, the action, to an object. In terms of clause structure, the direct object achieves its identity because of its position relative to the verb. For example, we could reverse the element in that clause. Subject complement. In terms of its meaning, subject complement says what the subject is or is feeling. Example, becoming, seems, etc. In terms of the clause structure, we need once again to look at the verb, just as an extensive verb can result in a clause having a direct object. So the object complement C co-occurs with an intensive verb. The most common of the verbs is the be form, indirect object. In terms of the meaning of the clause, I gave Tom a piece of my mind. We find a direct object, a piece of my mind, which is given to a recipient, Tom. The recipient is the indirect object, OI, and such clauses are known as SVOO structures. In terms of clause structure, the indirect object is made necessary, as are other kinds of clauses, by the nature of the verb. This time, it allows 2 objects to be used within the clause. It is not possible to have a clause with only a subject, verb, and indirect object. This would result in clauses like I gave Tom, and although out of context, it is unlikely we would ever use such a structure. It is easy to imagine a context in which this would become a perfectly understandable SVO clause. I gave 2 kittens called Tom and Tim. I wanted to give one away, so I gave Tom. The object complement, CO, is what someone or something is or becomes as a result of an action performed by someone or something else. Adverbial. In terms of its meaning, the adverbial A generally tells where, when, why, or how the action in the verb happened. The clause as representation of meaning. The clause involves three kinds of elements. These are A process, B, people and things that participate in the process, and C, circumstances that are associated with the process in some ways. Kinds of processes: doing, saying, sensing, and being. These four general kinds of processes are described in terms of clause representation. For example, sequences of events may involve people in various kinds of actions, as well as speaking in dialogue. People's reactions to events can include words that express their feelings. A. Doing, focusing on activities. The doing process represents the material actions, what people do or what happens. These are particularly found in sequences of events in stories. Examples are: I asked him some questions. I kicked the ball. Other verbs of doing include carry, fly, catch, etc. B. Sensing. Sensing is another type of process. The process of sensing is a mental one. Examples are: A. Mary was pleased with the gift. B. She likes oranges. Other words of sensing are fear, wonder, enjoy, amazes, frightens, puzzles, forget. C. Being. Focusing on entities. Being as a process is a relational one. Being, take two. Being as a process is as relational one. Examples are: 1. Ade is wise. 2. Mice are timid creatures. 3. The baby turned into a pig. 4. Your story sounds funny. D. Saying as a process is a verbal one. Examples are: 1. John said, I am sick. 2. My watch says it's 10:30. 3. The notice tells you to keep quiet. Study session summary. This lecture is concerned with another model of grammar which emphasizes the meaning and function of grammatical forms. A major focus of the lecture is the clause in terms of its experiential, interpersonal, and textual functions. As a representation of experience, the clause performs a variety of functions such as process, participation, and circumstances. The grammar is called syntematic functional grammar, SFG. Post-test. 1. Classify the following verbs into their various process functions: slap, know, cook, believes, admire, exclaim, mind. End of study session 14.